Welcome once again to the Doktor Zeero Free Magic Secrets Show! Today we're going to continue our discussions about ninja magic, specifically the kunoichi, the deadly flower. And we're going to talk about how women were trained as ninja in the feudal Japan. And this is sort of a female power message, you could say. Uplifting, motivational, makes you feel like a warrior, exemplifying the intensity of your feminine agility like a hawk coming at a field and swooping up mice and being this and that and all these things. Okay, so anyway, the Japanese warlord Moritoki Mochizuki was killed in the famous Battle of Kawanakajima in 1561, and his widowed wife Shiome was left in the care and custody of her husband's uncle, the powerful Shingen Takeda. Rather than retire to the secluded life of a nun, as might have been expected under the situation, Mochizuki's widow went on to play an active role in the support of the great daimyo Takeda. At Takeda's request, Shiome agreed to undertake the establishment of one of the most effective and yet undetected networks of kunoichi, female ninja agents, in the history of the Sengoku Jidai Warring States period of Japan. Shingen Takeda's idea was to have Shiome set up a group of trained miko, female shrine attendants, who would act as spies, observers, and messengers throughout Takeda's Kai region, which is now present-day Yamanashi, as well as the Shinano territory, present-day Niigata, which was the prime target of conquest for both Shingen Takeda and his rival Kenshin Usugi. Takeda had always made good use of ninja in his own domain as well as those of other lords. The kunoichi would be yet another means of gathering needed intelligence or verifying reports from other sources and agents. The young female shrine attendants could easily travel around the area and interact with the local residents without arousing much suspicion at all, thereby adding to the overall strength of the Takeda family. Shiome established her underground academy in the village of Nazu, present-day Nagano, and went to work as the headmistress of her school for female ninja agents. Since the miko were always young unmarried girls, Shiome began recruiting appropriate candidates from the ranks of the countless children rendered homeless by the all-consuming civil war that raged throughout the island nation of Japan. Takeda's kunoichi trainer became foster mother to any orphaned, abandoned, runaway, or lost girls who found themselves in the Shinshu region without anyone to turn to. To the citizens of the region, Shiome appeared to be nothing more than a kindly, compassionate woman who was working to provide some comfort and spiritual value to the lives of certain young girls who would have otherwise been relegated to a life of misery and wretchedness. The girls were instructed in the duties, manners, and knowledge of the Miko Vestal virgins, who served the priests of the Shinto shrines of the land. In addition to the standard training, however, the young chargers of Shiome were also given a thorough grounding in a mindset perception that would later guarantee their loyalty in all situations. By continuously prompting and reminding the girls of the source of their salvation from a life of misery, Shiome worked to bind the girls to her. The girls were encouraged to examine their previous lives over and over in the same way. What had led them to their misery? Who let them down? Who found them and saved them? And all seemed lost. The girls eventually came to believe that the only way to survive in the world was depend on the strong ties with the fellow sisters from the academy and to demonstrate total loyalty to Shiome Mochizuki. As a third step in the girls' education, Shiome taught that how to obtain information valuable to her, how to analyze and evaluate situations, how to cause confusion and dissension through the planting of rumors, how to recruit reliable messengers who could pass on information to other kunoichi miko in the network, how to disguise themselves, and how to use their feminine charm to manipulate men when appropriate. Once completing the course of indoctrination and training at the Ninja Academy in Nazu Village, the girls were sent out to become a part of Shiom's female agent group. Shiom gathered her intelligence from all over the 2 target provinces, also picking up knowledge from travelers who had journeyed in outlying areas, and passed her findings on to Shingen Takada directly. To protect the efficiency and integrity of the kunoichi ring, Shiom's role in Takeda's scheme was disclosed to nobody and remained a secret for the life of the great general. The history of feudal Japan is filled with such stories as that of the female ninja of Koga Ryu's Mochizuki family. All members of the family were ready to do whatever was required to ensure the security and safety of their clan, women as well as men, and each person had his or her roles and specialties. Women could often move undetected and unsuspected in circles where male agents would find it difficult or impossible to fit in, which made them especially valuable for purpose of espionage that would better enhance the family's chances for survival. Historically, the kunoichi was trained in a manner similar to her male counterparts, although the instruction of the female ninja did emphasize the more subtle aspects of personal one-on-one warfare. Small unit battlefield tactics that would be taught to her brothers would have been less important than skills of psychology and the manipulation of another's personality or perspective through behavior modification, and the channeling of her intuition, all of which were emphasized in the historical kunoichi training. The preparation of kunoichi for active field work did, of course, include basic instructions in the ninjutsu combat methods of taijutsu, unarmed self-protection, bojutsu and hanbo jutsu, staff and cane fighting, tanto jutsu, knife techniques, yari jutsu, spear usage, and ninpo kenjutsu, sword methods. The tactics, however, were designed to fit the specific situation of a smaller female contending with and escaping from larger male adversaries, rather than situations of commando-type attacks against guard positions or sentry outposts. This same emphasis on pragmatic approaches toward using the body's structure and dynamics in a scientific manner continues to guide the training of current-day female members of the authentic Japanese ninjutsu tradition, with a working ability to apply the principles of naturalness, of motion, and adaptability to the elements of the situation through taijutsu. Female practitioners of the shinobi art can use their generally smaller stature and natural grace to successfully handle any life-threatening or potentially injurious situation. As with all other aspects of ninjutsu, what more conventional thinkers would label as weaknesses, the ninja see as tools. Accommodations must, of course, be made for the realities of female self-protection in the current age, just as it was true in eras past. Footwork dynamics must be adjusted to the normal daily dress and footwear of the female practitioner. Skirts and dresses that wrap around the legs in a binding manner and shoes with straps or elevated soles pose the same problems that wrap around kimonos and zori, slip-on sandals, and geita, wooden clogs once created for the historical female ninja. Strength ratios between average female defenders and male attackers must also be acknowledged, rendering self-defense tactics that rely on power punching, kicking, or throwing virtually useless in realistic life-threatening encounters. Another crucial aspect of self-protection for female ninja is the women's potential for employing what seem to be brutal tactics against a fellow human being. In the contemporary Western world, just as it was in ancient Japan, female members of society are subtly taught that their demeanors ought to be gentle and refined. Stereotypically, little boys are taught to be tough and competitive on the sports field, while little girls are thought to be accommodating and sociable in the home. From ancient history right up to today, males have generally been regarded as the contending breadwinners, while females have generally been regarded as the appeasing peacemakers. This cultural or perhaps biological hormonal orientation towards uniting tendencies can often interfere with the realization that a life threat from an attacker has materialized in all its malevolent darkness. Unfortunately, all too often it takes the civilized victim, whether female or male, too long to come to the realization that the attack is indeed real and that protective action is demanded. That deadly hesitation for the thought, it really is happening to me, to pass through the conscious mind is all it takes for the attacker to gain complete control of the situation. The teachings of the historical Togakure Ryu ninjutsu tradition recognize a dangerous attacker as having given up the right to be regarded as a sentient being worthy of loving consideration, and suggests that such attackers be regarded as non-human demonic forces or crazed savage animals that must be dealt with by any means required for a successful outcome to the unfortunate encounter. They have relinquished the right to be considered as human by means of their descent into inhuman behavior. Just as any human body is capable of producing healthy cells that ensure the growth of the body, as well as deadly cancerous cells that threaten to destroy the body if unchecked, the greater part of humankind seems to produce its own images of growth and cancer beings. Each such being must be recognized for its inherent value and handled with appropriate means. Any person considering himself or herself worthy of living a happy and healthy life of meaning must realize that deadly folly of regarding dangerous killers and maimers as fellow humans worthy of consideration. Such vicious entities are quote-unquote fellow only to other such cancerous beings. So the ninja just puts you down. That's the point. It's not a combat art. There's no getting around it. Any dirty trick in the book. So we're talking about books of dirty tricks. So here we go. Ninpo Taijutsu methods of Kunoichi. The following examples show a few of the Ninpo Taijutsu methods appropriate for one of smaller stature, of less relative strength, occasionally wearing restrictive clothing, typical in a situation where the female ninja must contend with a larger male assailant. And this goes to all kinds of cool, how you throw people around easily, and all this like badass like ninja shot by shot, everything this and that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to keep talking, and I'm going to tell you once again, you need to listen or look into, there's a style of martial art, and it was ninjutsu, honest ninjutsu, real ninjutsu that we're talking about here, that got developed into a more modern version called Toshindo. And Toshindo is taking everything that works for all the principles that works in the old school ninja traditions and applying it to what would actually happen in today's environment, shall we say. So it kind of it's a reinterpretation that's for the modern world. It's called Toshindo. So anyway, this is by the way a book connected to someone from Toshindo. If you seek into Toshindo, you'll find the source material of which I talk. So I got one last thing to say out of this. The legendary Japanese warrior art of ninjutsu, developed in mountain and marsh wilderness territories far remote from the feudal emperor's capital in Kyoto, because the historical ninja had to face overwhelming odds, with the enemy often being government troops who were far better equipped, stronger in numbers, and official representatives of the legal establishment controlling the region. Physical survival often entailed a working familiarity with the forces of nature and the cycles of the seasons as a means of increasing the likelihood of success for these outlawed economic and religious rebels who developed the shinobi arts. As a means of passing on skills to younger family members and preserving the knowledge in a manner that would allow seasoned operatives. You hear me turning the page? I'm old school. We read books when the years that I came from. Now you just read TV screens. You read smart screens Is it smart to read a smart screen? It burns your eye. To recall vital instructions even in moments of extreme life-threatening stress, the ninja of South Central Japan developed a series of working models from nature. The models were used as codes to simplify the process of understanding and remembering. They were not employed in attempting the impossible task of classifying all potential methods with all their physical details. In the nature lore of ninjutsu, there developed two distinct systems that today are commonly referred to as the 5-element theories. Go die. Not like, hey, go die, but kind of like the pun, but it's Go-DAI. Go die. Of great importance in understanding the ninja combat method, one theory, the ninjas go die, 5 major elemental manifestations, derived from the Ninpo Mikyo Himalayan Tantric spiritual teachings, includes the following codes: forms of magic, Qi, earth, solid matter, Sui, water, liquids, Ka, fire, energy transformation, Fu, wind, gases, Ku, primordial ether, subatomic source of all elements. Go-Gaiu, another 5-element theory. The Go-Gaiu 5-element transformations stemmed from Chinese Taoist teachings that found their way into feudal Japan by way of authorized cultural exchanges, as well as covert instruction provided by refugee Chinese generals and priests seeking sanctuary in Japan following the destruction that accompanied the collapse of China's Tang dynasty in the 10th century. Unlike the Go-Dai system that cataloged the elements during the ever-continuing formation of the universe, the Go-Gaiu system stems from the yin and yang in Chinese polarity theory, and catalogs the cycle of transformation that continuously takes place in the realm of material objects. The 5 elemental transformations include the following contraction and expansion codes. Forms of magic: Sui, water, dissolving; Moku, wood, growing; Ku, fire, evaporating; Do, earth, solidifying; Tin, metal, hardening. It would be emphasized that these 5 elemental codes were developed as symbols, typifying the stages through which all matter passes. They are not meant to be taken as literal classification of trees, rocks, water, and so forth. All phenomena continue to pass through these transformations in a cyclical pattern, for which the 5 codes were assigned as a means of better understanding. The 5 do not exist as 5 separate entities in themselves, but rather reflect the quality of blending or emerging from one state into the other. The cycle has no real beginning or end either. The observer will note that the cycle seems to begin at the stage in the rise and fall of energy, wherever he or she happens to first direct attention. Each stage of the transformation process can be seen to lead naturally into the next in a series of never-ending supporting relationships. Water, sinking condensation, produces wood. Wood, upreaching growth, produces fire. Fire, expanding free energy, produces solid earth. Earth, compacting, produces metal. And metal, hardening, in turn produces water. This natural 5-element code system works equally well, whether used for medical healing and strengthening purposes, or applied as a means of analyzing the destinies of nations. Now I got Gotan Po. Rationally, the symbols can also be followed in a series of destructive or inhibiting relationships by altering the perspective or progress of the flow. Water melting can put out fire. Fire rising energy can soften metal. Metal hardening can cut down wood. Wood growing can break up earth. And earth solidifying can dam up water. This subduing symbolism is in turn the basis for the historical ninja's Gotan Po 5-element escape method. Because the ninja families of ancient Japan were part of an underground counterculture that existed at the annoyance of the established samurai bureaucracy power structure, self-protection and the prevention of danger often entailed covert actions by mere individuals opposing the might of major troop formations. These tremendous odds made conventional honorable warfare not only illegal, but impossible as well. Therefore, all approaches to survival, from psychological deception to homemade black powder to blending with the elements of nature, had to be considered by the ninja. At face value, the ninja's Gotan Po could, of course, serve as a guide for vanishing from the sight of an enemy. The night warrior could imitate or blend in with the rocks and earth, trees, bodies of water, or utilize fire and smoke or metal objects as a means of enhancing his or her chances of successful escape. This is the more obvious application of the Gotan Po 5-element theory. Dotan Jutsu is the use of the earth element to aid in escape. This application includes a knowledge of the geography of the area of operation, the use of natural terrain, features for concealment, and the strategic employment of terrain as a means of hindering and discouraging the enemy's pursuit. Skills of land navigation, efficient walking and running methods, and a working knowledge of how to operate a wide range of vehicles are also part of ninjutsu's Dantan Jutsu. Sutan Jutsu is the use of the water element to add an escape and evasion. This application of the Go-Gyu theory includes the use of still or moving water as a means of penetrating or leaving enemy territory, the use of water for concealment, and the use of streams, bodies of water, and even induced flooding as a means of detaining or hindering pursuers. Methods of water navigation, stealth swimming, and underwater action, and a knowledge of boat and flotation device operation are also parts of the ninja's Sutan Jutsu. Keitan Jutsu is the use of the fire element to assist the ninja in escape actions. This interpretation of the Gantan Po 5-element tactics includes the use of smoke and fire as a cover or distraction, as well as a knowledge of the preparation and employment of things that go boom. Also part of ninjutsu's Keitan Jutsu since the 16th century is a working ability with all types of firearms that could be used by or against the ninja and his or her family. Mokutan Jutsu is the use of wood and plants as a means of aiding the ninja to evade an enemy. Trees and brush could be used for concealment or undetected viewing posts, or could be employed to hinder large groups of armored or mounted troops attempting pursuit. The use of plants as natural medicine or poisons also constitutes an aspect of ninjutsu's Mokuton Jutsu, as does a working knowledge of structural configuration and carpentry. Kintan Jutsu is the employment of metal objects to assist in escape and evasion. Metal applications include all tools needed to gain access or escape from locked and barricaded structures, climb or perch on high structures or natural formations, or fight off the attack of the enemy who would restrain the ninja. Less obvious is the deeper symbolism of the Gotan Po as a series of lesson blocks dealing with the transformation of energies in a natural manner, so as to be able to guide and overcome the enemy's attack, or at least create a false and yet totally believable perception of reality in the enemy's mind. Growing, rising energy, wood, leads to free-moving, expansive energy, fire, unless it encounters factors of hardening, metal, which inhibits or stops growth. Melting, newly flowing energy, water, leads to growing. Rising energy, wood, unless it's inhibited by solidifying tendencies, earth. In a combat scenario, free-moving, expansive energy, fire, that manifests itself as speed and power will eventually run out, which leads to a need to slow down earth and scientifically hold ground, unless the reliance on speed is inhibited by energy-conserving tendencies that turn the fighting action into relaxed, flowing motions, water. It is important to emphasize that the ninja's 5-element Go-Gyu theory of using natural cyclical tendencies is based on a series of graphic symbols from nature and does not represent a system of literal interpretations of the so-called elements. Metal produces water, which produces wood, but is conquered by fire, which is in turn conquered by water. is really a coded way of reminding ourselves that hardness eventually softens, and softness produces upward rising energy. But the tendency toward hardness is inhibited by aspects that would lead to lighter, freer energy, and expansive rising energy is in turn brought down by qualities of melting or flowing. As with all else that is ninjutsu, the Go-Gayu 5 elements are a powerful tool that can lead to the understanding that produces enlightenment, if only we can reach behind the surface and grasp the hidden significance. So that's all for the Doktor Zeero Free Magic Secrets show today. And do hit the subscribe button. Post these on Facebook groups and such, Twitter, TikTok, whatever, man. Just let people know I exist. Check out the TikTok. I'm on Vimeo as well, vimeo.com. Just search Doktor Zeero and you will find all my stuff. It's a backup if YouTube ever goes down. Someone will know. And blah, blah, blah. Getting smackety. Here's a cool outro.